Alrighty, so I wanted to take a second to explain how three-way switches work. Now, by three-way switches, I mean a switch when you have, like a lot of times in kitchens, big living rooms, or especially hallways, is probably the most common one, you know, bottom of the stairs, top of the stairs. When you have a switch that turns on a light, and then down at the other end of the hallway, you've got another switch that turns that light off. And it can be turned on and off from either switch, regardless of the other switch's position. That is a three-way light switch circuit. Sometimes there's even ones that are four ways, where you can have multiple switches that control the same light. So you can have one at one end of a hallway, one in the middle of a long staircase, and one at the top of the stairs. Things like that. That's a little different, and you know, I'll showcase that perhaps on another video when I encounter one. But anyway, so three-way switches, what I find the most with these is people will have three-way circuits that don't work. They'll have it, one switch can turn the light on and off and the other one can't do anything, or the other one can only work if the one switch is in the right position, that kind of thing. And so a lot of times they just don't work, or people know that they have to leave the one at the top of the stairs in one position all the time so that the one at the bottom can turn it off successfully, on and off successfully. And that always ends up being that either somebody had replaced the switches and didn't know how to wire them back correctly, they got the wires in the wrong place, or they used the wrong kind of switch. And if you were to put a regular two connection switch in place of one of these, you can only wire half the circuit, and then the switch will only work as a regular switch, and you can't have two switches controlling it. And then worse yet, the other switch might only send power if it's in the right position to the one switch to have any control at all, that kind of thing. So it gets kind of confusing. So let me show you how these work. So what this is you've got three screws on it, three connections. You've got one screw that is typically a black screw or some dark shade, you know, kind of different than the other two in some way, and they usually call this the common screw. And they call it the common screw because it's the common wire between the two switches. So it's the wire where power is going to come in and out of the two switches. These two wires at the top are the traveler wires. These wires, all they do is cross the wire or cross the power between the two switches. That way each switch, regardless of the position it's in, sends power down one of these wires and back. And that's what completes the circuit. So in this situation, if you need to figure out, like say for instance, it's all messed up and you need to take the switch off and you need to figure out how to make it work. So you go to the store, you buy a brand new three-way switch and you say, okay, which wires are which? Well, here's how it basically works. Regardless of the colors of the wires, because depending on the situation and who wired it, it could be kind of all over the place. Sometimes these are white and red, sometimes they're white and black, sometimes they're black and whatever, who knows. But typically, people try to use the black wire as your common wire just because it's the most commonly used one for a hot circuit. So in this situation, you see that this black wire goes to a bundle. Bundles like this, especially when you've got other wires coming off going to these switches, that shows you that this is your power. So this is the one that is feeding this light circuit, that light circuit, and anything else that might be in a box if you have a larger arrangement. So that's that. If you need to, you can use a tester and verify that this is power, and then you know that this one, which also wrapped around the other two, is oftentimes an electrician's way of showing which one the common wire is. That one is your power wire. So that one is going to have to go to a common wire because it's the one that needs to be jumped back and forth between these at the other switch to complete the circuit. So that's your power wire. You've got your traveler wires going up to this Romex here that goes up and over the house down to the other switch. So when you pull that apart, and same goes for this one, you see that this wire here, you've got your Romex coming down from the other side of the house, you've got your two traveler wires going to the top of the switch, and then you've got your common wire on this one. In this case, it doesn't go to a bundle, but it goes to another wire dropping down out of this box, which goes to the light. So this one is the wire that actually powers the light. These are the two wires that you have at the other switch that alternate power depending on the positions of the switch, and they supply the power from the other common wire. So if that sounds a little confusing, it's really not. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that the wire going to the light, or whatever it is we're turning on, goes to the common wire, and the wire coming from power goes to the common screw, is the word I was looking for, goes to the common screw. As long as those two wires are in the correct position, the circuit will work, because these wires don't matter. These can be flip-flopped amongst these two screws, however, it doesn't make a difference. They are just there to alternate power between the two positions of the switch, and that's it. So whatever position the switch is in, it's sending power down one side and down the other side, and then they are always available to go back and forth between the two switches, or however many switches you have in a multi-switch circuit like this. But that's the thing you need to look for, is which wire goes somewhere. Which wire goes to the circuit or goes to a power source or something like that. Those are the ones that go to this black screw. And as long as those are in the right spot, the rest of it's cake. And at that point, you should be able to fix the circuit. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. If you have any questions or something, shoot me messages in the comments. If this helped you out with your three-way switch debacle, please like and subscribe.